There are women who never set out to be noticed, yet they're the ones you can never forget. They don't seek applause, measure themselves by the loudness of their laughter or by the length of their legs. They enter softly, like an evening breeze, like the scent of a long-awaited book. At first, no one sees them, but one glance is enough, and they stay with you for life. Erich Maria Remarque once said, "Everything we love, we are bound to lose. But there are women you lose and then find again in every woman who follows." Such a woman is not loud. She is deep. She doesn't argue. She's silent in a way that makes you want to apologize. She doesn't provoke jealousy. She inspires respect. She never manipulates attention. She brings peace. These are the women Remarque wrote about. He sensed them as if they were a string inside the soul. He understood that a woman's strength is not in shouting or flaunting her independence, but in her ability to be herself, in the quiet of her actions, in pride that's wounded yet hidden behind a gentle smile. You would recognize her among 100 others, not by her clothes or makeup, but by her eyes, a little weary, yet very much alive. In that gaze lies a whole novel, a whole war, a whole sea. They are eyes that have seen pain and did not grow bitter, that have loved, and because of that, learned to be silent. A real woman is not the one who dazzles. She is the one whose silence you could listen to forever, her look seems to say. She never boasts of her past. It wasn't an easy one, full of mistakes, disappointments, even betrayals. But she isn't bitter. She is quietly wise. She knows happiness is inner, not external, steady, not noisy. Remarque wrote, "No one knows how strong a woman is until she decides to leave in silence." Such a woman leaves not to play games, but because she respects herself. She returns only where she is felt, where she isn't judged, dissected, or used, but sensed, where people around her become better, not because she demands it, but because she inspires it. This is not a woman event. She is a woman presence. She needs no announcement. You simply feel her, like the smell of rain, like music that starts playing inside you without warning, and you can never live quite the same again. Women like these make men grow up, not in age, but in spirit. Beside her, you want to be cleaner, speak softer, live more consciously. And if you ever meet her, you will search for her all your life, even in others. Some women are like the hush before a storm. There's so much calm and so much power in it that you're afraid to utter a single word. Remarque seems to whisper between the lines. There is something special about a woman who isn't afraid of solitude. She doesn't fill silence with random voices, doesn't look for meaning in fleeting chatter, doesn't rush into relationships just because being alone is scary. She knows how to be with herself, and that is her greatness. Remarque wrote, "Loneliness is when you feel good with yourself. Everything else comes from fear." A woman impossible not to notice is not lonely, she is whole. There are no gaps inside her that someone must hurry to patch. She isn't afraid of evenings without calls, doesn't seek proof of her worth. She realized long ago, her worth lives within. She has her own life, books on the nightstand, her favorite tea, walks at sunset. She can afford the luxury of being herself. And that scares people, because the world is used to the dependent, the clinging, the pleading. But she doesn't plead. She chooses. And if she chooses you, know this. It's not because you filled a void, but because she saw something genuine in you, something that resonated with her inner music. Strong women don't fall for those who make loud promises. They fall for those who can keep silent beside them, said Remarque. She won't chase you. She'll let you go if you must, without drama or reproach, because she knows how to lose with dignity. Her pain is warm, not prickly. Her tears are not hysteria, but farewell. She will survive and grow quieter, deeper still. You won't see her everywhere. She doesn't display her life. But if you look into her soul, you'll see a whole world, imperfect yet honest. She isn't waiting to be rescued. She rescued herself once already. Now she wants a companion, not a savior. someone unafraid of her light, undaunted by her past, unfazed by her honesty. Remarque wrote, "A woman who has learned to live without love becomes a choice, not a need. And that is what makes her extraordinary. She is not a request. She is an encounter, optional yet fateful. She can stay near you without depending on you, love you without losing herself, give without running dry. You will never hear her say, 'I can't live without you.' She will say, 'With you, it's better. Without you, it's not the end.' And that is the highest form of love, because true love is not dependence, but freedom, choice, respect for boundaries and for silence. Such a woman is not a storm, she is a depth. If you can dive into her, you'll realize you never loved before. She knows how to be silent, not because she has nothing to say, but because her silence is an entire conversation. A strong woman doesn't squander words. Her silence is deliberate, sometimes forgiveness, sometimes farewell, sometimes care. A woman is silent not when she has nothing to say, but when she knows she won't be heard. She understands that not every pause needs filling, not every pain needs voicing. Some feelings lose depth when spoken. Some disappointments need to be endured alone, with a glass of wine under a night lamp. Such a woman isn't afraid of silence in conversation. She doesn't fidget, doesn't strive to seem interesting. A pause doesn't scare her. She gives you the space to look inside yourself. She can simply be, and that is her power. Sometimes her silence is hurt, not a cry, not an accusation, just a look that says it all. She never stages scenes, but you will remember that look forever. Sometimes her silence is forgiveness, wordless, explanation-free. She just comes back without demanding apologies because she knows, if you understand, words are unnecessary. If you don't, no words will help. Sometimes a woman is silent because it hurts. Sometimes because there's nothing more to say. Sometimes because you already understand but fear admitting it. Remarque seems to say through her gaze, with her you don't need many words. She feels. She listens not only with her ears, but with her soul, your breathing, your tone, the pauses between your words. And if she is beside you, you can afford to be real, no act, no pose. She has been through much herself, places where everything collapsed, where words betrayed, promises failed. She now trusts deeds, not words, the present, not the future, quiet assurance, not loud declarations. Beside her, you grow quieter, and there is no fear in that, only relief, because you no longer need to prove, to defend, to flee. You can just be. The strongest feelings are those nobody speaks of aloud, wrote Remarque. Her silence can be cozy when you simply sit together, no texting, no dissecting, no analyzing, just drinking tea, walking down the street, gazing out the window. And that is enough, because with her, you need invent nothing, need not be someone else. With her, you are as you are, and that is the greatest gift a woman can give. She won't ask for love, she will grant peace. She won't wait for declarations, she will look, and you will feel that you matter, authentically, without filters. She knows how to be silent, yet within that silence is everything. If you're not afraid to listen, you'll hear. There is love, pain, hope, strength. There is her. Her love is not a flash, not a hurricane, not a showcase passion. She loves like breathing, soundlessly, without theater, but with her whole heart, to the very depths. Remarque wrote, "A woman who truly loves doesn't say it every minute. She is simply there, always. She needs no proofs. She herself is proof that love can be mature, steady, calm. Her love isn't about control, jealousy, or demands. It's about acceptance, trust, warm silence. You won't notice when she starts loving you. It happens quietly, like the first snow. A hint of frost in her eyes, then a cup of tea she sets beside you, then a blanket she fetches even though you never asked. She stays near you not because you called, but because she sensed you were tired. Her love isn't about flashy posts and loud words. She doesn't show off the relationship because her feelings aren't for everyone. They're an intimate dialogue between two souls, with no spectators, no applause. The most beautiful love is the one known only to the two of you, Remarque seems to whisper. She won't shout, "I love you," every day, but you'll feel it in her gestures, in her eyes when you laugh, in her silence when you're hurting, in her skill of staying out of the way when you need to be alone, in her presence, even at a distance. She isn't frightened by lulls in love. She knows everything passes through phases, and not everything must always blaze. She can endure the calm, can be patient, because her love isn't all at once, but the real thing, step by step. Love is when they understand you without words, wait without demands, stay even when you're silent, he seems to have written of her. With such a woman, you won't forever be on an emotional peak, but you will be in the depths, where things are real, where you're accepted in weakness and in strength, where you're not changed, but unfolded. She doesn't stage scenes, doesn't demand proofs, but if she one day feels you're not genuine, that you're playing a role, she will leave. Quietly, forever, because her love is a gift, not a dependency. She doesn't cling, she chooses. You won't find her where feelings are shallow. Her love isn't for everyone. It is rare, like wine that's aged long, like music not immediately understood, like a book you must dive into completely. Sometimes you meet a woman and realize this is her, not because she's perfect, but because everything in her is real. Remarque's lines echo her image again. She doesn't ask for love, she gives it. And if you can receive, you get more than you expected. Not just emotion, but a person, a home, a light, a meaning. She doesn't leave suddenly with screams or tears. She leaves when she no longer believes, when the warmth is gone from her eyes, the tremor from her voice, when inside her is final silence. Remarque said, "A woman doesn't leave at the moment she slams the door. She leaves the moment she stops waiting." Until then, she waited. She believed in better, held on to feelings even when everything collapsed. She looked for what she once saw in you. She trusted, forgave, kept silent, not out of weakness but out of love. But even the strongest woman has limits. When she finally feels her love is devalued, she vanishes. No scenes, no claims, no loud words. One day you wake and she's gone, neither beside you nor inside. The hardest farewells are the ones nobody heard. She won't tell her friends, won't seek revenge, won't hunt for your replacement. She'll simply step aside, take her soul back, and start living again. Not out of spite, but anew, not in despair, but with dignity. You won't understand at once. You'll wait for her message, her voice, her look, but everything will be different, because when such a woman leaves, she leaves no trace, no hope, only memory and silence. She doesn't leave with reproach. She leaves with gratitude for what was good. She always leaves beautifully, so that even years later you remember her as the silence you want to return to, the silence you cannot forget. When a woman leaves in silence, it isn't fear, it is resolve, and that is the most frightening, Remarque seems to have written. With her, it was simple and at the same time profound. Now, in her absence, you realize the weight of her silences, her kind habits, her look full of patience, her quiet yet powerful love. You'll want her back, write, call, explain, but alas, she is already in another space, inside herself, where you are no longer present. Such a woman doesn't leave from weakness, but from self-respect. Her love can endure much, but not lies, not betrayal, not indifference. When you cease to be her home, she finds it in herself. She leaves quietly, and you won't even notice how empty your life has become, wrote Remarque. If one day you realize whom you've lost, don't blame her. She did everything to stay, but you were sure she was forever. And women like her are not forever. They are while you are genuine. After a woman who loved truly, nothing ordinary remains. No looks, no meetings, no relationships, because she changes you imperceptibly forever. She arrives and departs, leaving in you a silence that never leaves. Remarque wrote, "Some women pass through your life so that after them, there's not emptiness but the knowledge you are no longer the same. You begin to see things differently, think differently, feel differently. You grow quieter, more honest, gentler. Where once you moved on easily, now you pause and stare at the sky. Too long, too deep. You remember her not in drunken nights, not in wild stories, but in silence, in solitude, in a morning cup of coffee, in the moments when nothing happens. Yet it suddenly grows terribly quiet, because her silence was filled with meaning, and now around you it is merely empty. She left no footprints, but she remained in you, in your thoughts, in the way you now look at other women, in the words you no longer say aloud, in feelings that grew deeper and more painful. Some women teach you to love, but do it in silence, and only later do you understand that everything you learned was about her. You don't look for her substitute. You simply cannot see anyone else as you saw her. Not because others are worse, but because she was real. Your bar has changed forever. You stop playing, stop arguing, start listening, valuing, fearing to lose. Because once you already lost someone who loved you in silence, who believed, who waited, and left. You learn to be silent, to be present, to protect. And you suddenly realize this woman taught you the most important thing, to be a man. Not loud, not great, but genuine. Those who truly loved us remain in us even when they're not near, wrote Remarque. She becomes part of you, not a painful wound, but a quiet memory, bright but deep. Now you know what it's like to be loved without conditions. Now you know love isn't words, but eyes, gestures, silence. Everything you do from now on, you do a little differently, looking back to her, trying to be the man you should have been then, but weren't. After such a woman, you don't seek another, you seek yourself, the man you could have been beside her. Sometimes she returns, not to you, but to herself, the one she was before pain, disappointment, betrayal. She returns without resentment, without vengeance, with a new silence inside, more mature, deeper. She is no longer the one who waits, she is the one who goes. Remarque said, "A woman leaves forever only when she has found herself anew, and never again allows herself to be lost." You might see her again, somewhere by chance. In a bookshop, an old cafe, a foreign city. She'll be the same and entirely different, reserved, yet radiant. There will be no pain in her eyes, only a choice to live. She smiles again, but now the smile is not for someone else. It is for herself. The smile of a person who walked through fire and did not burn, only became cleaner. You will feel how you miss her simple gestures, her silence, how you long to say what you never had time to say. But it will be too late, not because she is angry, but because she has grown beyond the version of herself that loved you. Sometimes a woman returns to the same city, but by a different road, because the old one no longer leads to where she can be herself. Remarque seems to write between the lines. Now she doesn't seek love, she is love, for herself, for the world, for life. She gives warmth, but never again gives herself away completely. She helps, but only those who walk beside her, not those who drag her back. You look at her and realize she is even more beautiful, not outwardly, but deeper, richer. In her eyes, there is no longer a desire to be needed, only a desire to be real, peace and light. A strong woman is not the one who never cries, but the one who can rise after tears and still be kind, said Remarque. Now those around her are different, quieter, more honest, more careful. People who can hear, feel, not break, because such women no longer give second chances to those who missed their first silence. She has returned to herself, to her dreams, her feelings, her inner freedom. She no longer tries to be convenient, is no longer afraid to be alone, because she now knows better to be alone than to lose yourself. You may be near, may watch, but you are no longer in her story. You're in the prologue. She is already writing a new chapter without you. And that isn't revenge. It is her path. When such a woman chooses to be with someone after all she has endured, it's not an accident, not an impulse. It is a mature decision, not from loneliness or longing, but from inner peace, from fullness. She no longer seeks love to fill a void. She filled herself. Now the only one who can be beside her is someone who will support, not shatter her world, who won't fear the depth or wish to remake her. She won't cling or plead or wait to be noticed. She no longer needs that. Now she chooses only those with whom she can keep silent, be herself, feel safe being vulnerable, be strong without fear. You won't feel tension around her. She doesn't demand, she shares. She doesn't control, she simply feels. She respects space, hers and yours. And if she is with you, it means you matched her in something essential, in rhythm, in silence, in breath. She loves quietly, yet in that calm is immense power. Her love is no longer about fusion, but about alliance. Two worlds walking side by side, losing nothing of themselves, supporting, strengthening, without bondage, without the fear of loss. With her, you don't need loudness. You need honesty, depth, truth. She's not about appearances. She's about essence. You see how she changes beside the one she's chosen. She doesn't lose herself. She blossoms. Light in her eyes, confidence in her voice, softness in her gestures. And you understand. Next to her, you want to be better, worthy of her silence. You can hug her, and she will relax, because now she's with you not out of fear, but out of choice. She doesn't fear leaving, but she also doesn't fear staying. She knows how to be alone, but she chose to be with you. That isn't a compliment, it's trust, the most precious thing she can give. When she has walked through her pain and stayed tender, she becomes special, not loud or heroic, simply real. She no longer needs approval, doesn't strive to please, isn't afraid to be different. Her confidence isn't in declaring herself, but in being herself, quietly, steadily, independently. And when she enters a room, you feel it. You might not see her immediately, but you sense her presence, like the smell of a book, the wind before rain, a pause that tells you something important is about to happen. She is calm in a noisy world, and next to her, even the most restless begin to breathe deeper, slower, real breaths. She doesn't demand attention, but draws it in, not with her look, but with her state. People feel around her they can be themselves. No masks, no defenses, no excuses. She no longer proves she's strong. She has simply lived, endured, erred, risen, moved on, not for anyone else, but for herself. Now she needs no explanation. She listens more than she speaks, and every word is like aged wine, not for haste, but for taste, for meaning. She's hard to surprise, impossible to buy, and you cannot keep her, but you can inspire her. She doesn't destroy, but neither does she save. She knows. Everyone is responsible for their own pain, their own life, their own choices. She is beside you, if you are beside yourself. She holds your hand, if you don't let go of your own. Now she is not a woman of pain or waiting. She is a woman of presence, in her eyes, silence, in her words, meaning, in her movements, freedom. She may speak to you about simple things, but you will feel, behind those words is depth. She has learned to see people, to hear what isn't said, and not to believe words without warmth. Now she no longer fights for love, doesn't ask for a chance, doesn't go where she isn't awaited. She goes where it is calm, where it is honest, where there are no masks. She is not perfect, and it shows. But that is her freedom. She doesn't want to be the best, only alive, and to sit in silence with those who value that. She is no longer beside you, but you still carry her within. Not as pain or resentment, but as a memory of something very real, pure, warm, subtle as breath on glass, light as the scent of her hair on your sweater, heavy as the thought, If only I had understood then. She will not return. But you remember how she looked, how she stayed silent when it could have been loud, how she left without slamming the door, how she held you without touching, simply was there in the right moment, genuinely. Now you know how to be quieter, listen better, look deeper, not because you became different, but because she changed you when she loved and when she left. And you know, you will never meet another like her, because such women don't come to stay. They come so that one day you see yourself without a mask and never wish to be the same again. You may be with someone else, live, rejoice, but her warmth will remain inside, like a small flame in the deepest part of you. She is not a ghost. She is an inner compass, a point of reference, a memory of what you can be when you truly love. Time will pass. You will grow older, and one evening when everything is quiet, you will think of her, not with pain, but with gratitude, for being, for teaching, for letting go when letting go was necessary. She is no myth. She was real, simply too alive to stay forever in a superficial world, too genuine to be temporary. You will never forget her.